Baseball is back, and the first pitch is on Netflix. The New York Yankees, led by seven-time All-Star Aaron Judge, head to the San Francisco Bay to take on Rafael Devers' San Francisco Giants. This season kicks off with one exclusive opening night game. Watch MLB Opening Night, the New York Yankees versus the San Francisco Giants, live on Netflix. Wednesday, March 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.
How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Tap the banner or visit usaa.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
Welcome to the Sportsman's Voice podcast, your inside connection to the outdoor legislation. From the Beltway to policy happening your way, we're covering it all. I'm your host, Fred Bird. Join us as we explore public land access, wildlife and fisheries management, Second Amendment rights, the triumphs that shape our nation, the sports we all love, and the stories that fuel our passion for the great outdoors. This is the Sportsman's Voice podcast. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to this feature edition of the Sportsman's Voice podcast. This is your quarter one federal policy update. I truly cannot believe we're this far into 2026 already. With that, we are going to welcome in Senior Vice President Taylor Schmitz, Senior Director of Fisheries Chris Horton, and our Director of Forestry John Colclazier. I'm joined right now by both Taylor and Chris, and John will join us later. But gentlemen, welcome to quarter one. How are things?
Hey, Fred, thanks for having us.
Things are good. Q1 almost being over means it's time for turkey season.
Indeed.
So
yes.
Things are very good.
Thank God.
And the bass are going to the beds.
Yeah. Very good. Well, we still got some ice up here in polar North New Hampshire, but we're coming out of it. Lost a lot of snow this week, and the ice is starting to get slushy. So before long, gobbles and largemouth to be had. But let's kick this off with Chris. Chris, I understand there's some positive happenings in the fisheries world. Lead us off.
Yeah, thanks, Fred. It's been a very busy first quarter. From a legislative perspective, MAP Oceans, which is the bill that would require NOAA to standardize and digitize their data and make it available for the public, because they've got so many different regulations and areas closures and area marine protected areas out there that can be confusing for anglers. Well, it has passed House Committee. It's already passed the Senate, passed House Committee. So now it goes to the House floor for a final vote, and that'll be going to the President's desk hopefully here pretty soon, just like the MAP Waters, which is on the freshwater side, has already gone to the President's desk. So this is our last bit of mapping information that we need to be able to help boaters confidently gain access to our waters. So that's in a good spot. From a fisheries management perspective, the South Atlantic red snapper exempted fishing permits have been submitted to NOAA. The public comment period is closed, but basically what this is going to do is something that we've advocated for a long time, and that's to allow the states to develop their own data collection programs in the South Atlantic to get better data and to be able to have longer red snapper seasons. These 1 and 2 day seasons just they're denying anglers access to the healthiest resource that we've seen in the South Atlantic when it comes to red snapper. And we want to follow the same model that was so successful in the Gulf that when the state stepped up, did their own data collection programs, and were allowed the chance to manage their recreational fisheries. We went from 3 days there in 2017 to 200 days for several states last year. So we're on the right track there. We're fairly confident that NOAA will approve those EFPs, and I know that there were somewhere around 10 or 11,000 comments. Vast majority were in support of this. So it's time to get better data. You just can't do that with a 2-day season. When a lot of your data is landings data, and you only have a 2-day season, it's very difficult to get good data. So we're in great shape there. And I guess one more really relevant update recently is that NOAA has announced an advance notice, a proposed rulemaking to go back and look at the 2008 North Atlantic right whale rule, and use that process to update the rule and give us an opportunity to hopefully insert some technological solutions into the new rule, because we've come a long way since 2008 when it comes to marine electronics and what our boats, our private wreck boats, can receive when it comes to alerts about, hey, there's whales in the area, you need to slow down, and that's going to be a lot more effective than just a blanket closure where nobody even gets to go out and go offshore fishing because they can't get there at 10 miles per hour. So
All right. Yeah, we've covered all three of these topics quite a bit in the past, and it was good to see the public comment being provided for that right whale issue there, and get some efficiencies and some safety aspects as it concerns the recreational fishing community. And I think you and I, one of the biggest things was, if all of a sudden weather moves in on you and you're in this exclusion area, like you can't haul tail back home because you're worried about all this potential right whale. And anyway, it's good to see movement on that for progress, and certainly in a current events where both chambers seem to be gridlocked with a lot of the high, what am I trying to say, the high attention issues. And it'd be great to see our issues as per usual. I mean, we seem to have this track record of bipartisan support where most of the stuff that's getting the media's attention doesn't move. We get our stuff through, and that's at you guys' leadership down there on the hill. So that's great. Chris, one more follow-up question. I thought I saw something about the Shark Act come back up again and maybe some forward progress on that. Anything you want to tell our audience about Shark Act?
yeah, Shark Act has actually kind of where Map Oceans is in the House. It's teed up in the Senate. It only needs one more vote by the full Senate, and I think what you're referring to, there's been some additional co-sponsors. I know Senator Moody from Florida recently joined as a co-sponsor of that bill and had a lot of press around that support. So, hopefully we're just trying to make sure it's teed up in the Senate and gets enough attention that we can pass at the next opportunity and get this task force rolling, because we really need some solid recommendations on how to deal with this growing problem of shark depredation.
All right, we're joined now by John Colclasure, director of our forestry policy department. John, thanks for joining us. Give us the lowdown. I know you've been really involved here in the States, been able to work with you on some local stuff, but what's happening at the federal level? And then if we have some time, go into work that you're doing in the States to help guide that forest policy all around the country.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me on, Fred. Yeah, so busy year at the federal level and obviously at the state level with most state legislatures in session. So it's been enjoyed working with you and others on the state's program team to weigh in on several bills moving in the states. But at the federal level, we are tracking administrative action as well as legislation. We continue to work on the Fix Our Forest Act. Hopeful to see some movement on that before wildfire season gears up this year. Snowpack in the West has been really low this year, so people are worried about a bad fire season. And Fix Our Forest Act, would institute a lot of reforms in federal forest management policy to accelerate forest restoration to reduce wildfire risk. And so we're hopeful to see that move. I think there might be some tweaks coming to the bill, but we'll see. But yeah, it's a really good bill. A lot of folks in the sportsmen's community and the larger conservation community are behind it. So we're continuing to beat that drum and hopefully see some action there. Actually, yesterday, two bills did pass the House, the Save Our Sequoias Act and the Post-Disaster Reforestation and Restoration Act. Save Our Sequoias, very iconic species, native to California, limited sites there, and they are a fire-adapted species, but due to past poor forest management practices, those fire-adapted species are now susceptible and have had ground fires and stand replacement fires. So there's the Save Our Sequoias Act is a bipartisan bill to reduce hazardous fuel loads through prescribed fire, thinning, and other measures, insect and disease control. So good to see that bill picking up bipartisan support, and there was a Senate version introduced as well. And the House Farm Bill was introduced and saw some movement as well by Chairman Thompson. The conservation title includes one of our priorities, the Forest Conservation Easement Program, a federal conservation easement program designed specifically for forest land. So really excited to see support for that. And the forestry title included a long list of priorities for the sportsman's community. Cottonwood fix, for example, increased categorical exclusion, acreages, good neighbor authority expansions, among others. So not sure what will happen with that this year, but still good to see a lot of support for pro-forest management policies. And then administration, we're tracking the roadless rule rescission, expect to see the draft environmental impact statement released this spring. Also at the project level implementation for the U.S. Forest Service and BLM, really seeing a significant uptick in the number of projects proposed across the country, and we've been weighing in on them, and from Vermont to California to Montana and others. So really good to see the Forest Service lean into those EO secretary memos and their National Active Forest Management Strategy. We want to see, just kind of simplified here, we want to see more habitat work done to improve experiences for hunters and see more wildlife. So really excited to see those projects moving forward. Then the state legislation, where you and I've been coordinating, and our colleagues, I'll put them in two camps so far this year. Really, the good legislation and the bad, and generally it follows, like it does in a lot of our other states, where good legislation comes from and where the bad legislation comes from. But we've seen really good prescribed fire pro bills. One in Georgia, sponsored by the Sportsmen's Caucus chair there, that would preempt local regulation, essentially, of prescribed fire management throughout the state, just to streamline or to allow the state to preempt the field of legislation for prescribed fire, so it's not overly burdensome for landowners who own land in multiple counties, having to jump through different hoops. So that's good to see that move forward. It has a lot of support. It passed the House and it's pending in the Senate. Then in West Virginia, a really good bill there, also related to prescribed fire, creating a prescribed fire burn manager program to establish some liability protections for those with the prescribed burn manager certification. So that should facilitate more prescribed burn into state on private lands, which, as you know, is great for wild range of habitat that we all and species we all like to pursue. So and then on the bad side, we've seen, kind of similar to years past, quote, wildlands or old growth legislation proposing to restrict management or restrict certain silvicultural methods like clear cutting. We've seen some of those bills in Vermont and Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and others. So good to partner with you and our colleagues to weigh in and just kind of remind folks that there is value to active forest management. There is value to clear cutting. It's not all bad, not all judged just by aesthetics, and it's really important to use those even-aged methods to regenerate the habitat that's important to the species that need that early successional and young forest habitat.
Yeah, that's, all incredibly important work, especially at the state level. Going back to the beginning, John, some of those bills in process, do you see those getting through to the president's desk this session, or are we still kind of just going through the standard motions and just continuing to work a bill through? Like earlier, Chris Horton brought up some stuff in fisheries that we expect, like map oceans, for example, to get through and get to the president's desk. And it's just, for me, it's and for us in totality, it's a big deal where you have so much gridlock in both chambers on a lot of the high profile social issues and things that surround a lot of the partisanship in that town, but our issues remain to be successful. And we've seen that in administrations past where, all the hullabaloo is on the TV and the radio, but our stuff, everyone gets involved with it. It's pretty innocuous. They're good wins, and we end up kind of making it through unscathed.
Yeah, that's a good question. The Fix Our Forest Act, there's a House version and a Senate version, and the House version passed the House in early 2025, and it's bipartisan sponsored. It passed the House with, I think, 279 to 141. Don't quote me on that, but a strong bipartisan support. And then the Senate version, which differs in some respects from the House version, is sponsored by 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. So and then it passed the Senate Ag Committee 18-5. So depending on if those votes hold, theoretically that would get you to the 60 vote threshold in the Senate. So sometimes it takes attention from bad things to get bills moving. So wildfire season may bring some increased attention to that bill. But I think there are some things that need to be worked through regarding FOFA that hopefully people can come together on and work through to get those bills passed out of the Senate to the president's desk. So optimistic to see that done this year, but we will see. As everything.
Yeah. Do we ever get a farm bill?
Like I said, so the House version is moving. I don't know what prospects are in the House or what the Senate's going to do. So I don't have a crystal ball on that one right now.
No, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. At this point, it just kind of feels like a running joke and a bad joke at that. So certainly not encouraging it to continue on. But I think in the community, in our space, that we understand the importance of that farm bill renewal and not just keep kicking the can. That we'd like to see that as a community done much sooner rather than any later than it's been.
Yeah, it makes sense to get it done in election year, but then again, others may feel the other way on that.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff you'd think that makes sense get done in election year, and just seems like some stagnant water on a pond that's just breeding mosquitoes. Maybe there's a good analogy there for non-moving government, but nevertheless, I did see. I think it was interesting. I didn't know about the Sequoia bill, and I saw a headline this morning that highlighted that there's only 37,000 acres worth of sequoias. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's like 47 different groves. Don't quote me. I'm not a
Yeah, it's such
sequoia
a
expert.
small amount of acreage that where these things actually are, and it just kind of goes back to the importance of that legislation to protect them and have that forest management. I had no idea it was such a small amount.
Yeah, their distribution is very is limited, and California a little bit up into Oregon, or I'm sorry, just California in the interior range. So they're pretty limited distribution, but they are an iconic species, grow really large, hence their name, and it is kind of could be a poster child for the issues with our forest management. Sorry, yeah, it could be. It is a poster child for issues we're dealing with with forest management on federal lands. You have a fire-adapted species with very thick bark that should be able to withstand these standard low-intensity fire, but after years of fire suppression and poor management, you have these fuel ladders that are fueling, no pun intended, the larger high severity and canopies replacing fire. So it's kind of like, hey, if you can't address the fire in these limited range, relatively smaller acreage, and really iconic species, what are we doing? Why can't we come together to conserve those species?
Yeah, I'm sure someone's put a economic impact together because so many people from around the world uh, vacation and go over there just to see those giant trees. And yeah, you think there's at least a financial motivator there. John, always good to catch up with you. Thanks for the updates. We'll do it again next quarter, and look forward to continued success and building out this policy portfolio that you've done a good job with for where we at a year now.
We're in year 2 of our full-time forest policy programming now.
Awesome. Very good. All right, sir. Well, good to see you. We'll catch up soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, let's get our federal policy quarter one update from our senior vice president, Taylor Schmitz. Taylor, a lot of stuff rocking and rolling, and quite frankly, even in the last 24, 48 hours here with some major announcements. But let's turn this over to you because, like I said, there's been a lot going on since the beginning of the year to cover in this first quarter. So take us from the start to where we're at today.
Yeah, thanks, Fred. Appreciate that, and always good to be here. So, starting out in January, CSF testified on a couple different bills. Chris Horton, our Senior Director of Fisheries Policy, obviously testified on rig cerise, as you guys have spoken about in the past, and great opportunity for CSF to lead for our recreational fishing partners on the Hill as it relates to rig cerise. And then a week later, I testified on the Explore Act, which you and I have talked about in the past as well, and had an opportunity to represent the community and talk about a number of things ranging from shooting ranges to active forest management and overall just improving visitation and access for sportsmen and women on federal lands. And then also in January, Secretary Burgum of the Department of the Interior issued really the first of its kind secretarial order to provide guidance and directive on essentially opening up to the maximum extent possible as law allows all federal lands and waters within the Department of the Interior that allow hunting and fishing opportunities currently. This is a really significant victory for us. And rather than, we've gone through in the past and had been able to open up refuges to hunting or expand opportunities on BLM lands or what have you, but we've always kind of done it in a piecemeal approach. And this is really flipping that on its head and saying, unless there's a good reason why these things shouldn't be open hunting and fishing, all of these things are going to be open hunting and fishing. So the administration is currently working on implementing that secretarial order right now, but again, really exciting opportunity for us. And yeah, most recently this week, just yesterday, the House passed the fourth of four bills that we've been working on all week. And that was the Protecting Access for Hunters and Anglers Act. And really excited to get that one out of the House on a bipartisan vote. And essentially, all that bill does is it sets up a process, and importantly, it sets up a scientific process as it relates to managing lead ammo and fishing tackle. And it requires that there must be site specific science before any lead bans go into place. And any bans or prohibitions must be consistent with state regulations and state law. So, really excited about that. Not only does it support science, but it also supports our state wildlife agency partners. And that bill is led in the House by Congressional Sportsmen's Caucus member Congressman Rob Whitman from Virginia, one of the most diehard sportsmen that you'll have an opportunity to meet, and now heads to the Senate for further consideration.
Yeah, that's great. You know, the lead issue is always such a well, it's not one of my favorite issues to, to tangle. And because of the competing thoughts and the science that is incomplete, what is great about this, and so people can calm down, is that this doesn't trump that state law. But it will be nice to see at the federal level this get implemented, be science specific, and have this model put into place. And if anything else, influence stuff on the state level so that people aren't just, and I say people, state agencies or otherwise, just painting with broad strokes on, like, the language here says site specific. Like, that's such an important detail that, if I have this one area in New Hampshire and a couple loons ate a couple split shots or whatever it is, that's one loon as compared to the thousands and thousands of acres of water in the Granite State that would get shut down, and that may not be the case. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I really like the way this is spelled out, and hopefully it's something that states where this is being considered led rollbacks, um, volunteer type programs, that they can take a look at this and glean something from it. So it is a great win, and hopefully the Senate moves it right along.
That is the hope. And yeah, to your point, like this is about setting up a process, and there really is no process right now. And this doesn't undermine things like, the lead ban as it relates to waterfowl, right? This does not change that by any means. All it does is set up a process, and we've seen situations in the past, including about a year and 2, 3 months ago, where there was a national wildlife refuge in the West that was trying to ban the use of lead ammo and fishing tackle. And in the same document where they're proposing this ban, they state publicly that availability from as a real of lead ammo and fishing tackle from hunting and angling doesn't exist. So you're trying to ban something that is a commonly used method to take for sportsmen and women because you're concerned about some perceived threat that doesn't exist, and you're admitting in your own documents that it doesn't exist, nor do you have the science to indicate that it's a problem. So why are we doing this, right? And that's where this legislation is important to just codify things and put a process in place so we all know what that process is.
Yep. No, that's great. And I think about right now current events, international policy being what it is, and it really is like minute to minute, driving the cost of so many resources, gas and oil. Obviously, that's on everyone's mind, dinner table topics. But you start thinking about alternate materials other than lead. We've seen TSS almost overnight double. So where you're used to doing that, and it's very apropos, we're starting to hunt turkeys across this great country. When you're at a $10 to $15 trigger pull, we're no kidding looking at 25, $30 every shot, and there's only 5 shots in most of those boxes. So even if you're looking to create an alternative, it is getting priced out of the working class pocketbook, and it's not even viable. So again, more processes, more streamlining, and more standards can help guide this one way or the other. But just again, painting with broad strokes and forcing people into more expensive options. That's not going to cut it, and it would be a complete negative for conservation funding and conservation.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. And, fortunately, I actually was proactive for once when I'm getting ready for turkey season, decided to buy my shells in early February rather than waiting until a week before the season opens. So fortunately, I was able to get some shells, some tungsten loads, fairly affordably for compared to what they are right now. But yeah, the reality of it is $30 is $30. That's a tank of gas for people, right? That is, half a week's of grocery bills for people in some cases, right? And so we're talking real money on things. And to be able to have that flexibility, and let's be clear, like, you're not buying one shell at a time, right? You're not going out and saying, "Okay, I wanna get turkey and I'm gonna kill," hopefully shoot 1 bird. You're going out and buying that box of 5 at $30 a pop or $25 a
Mhm.
pop or whatever over 5 shells. You're talking real money very quickly for people. So, and again, it's not just about, you know it's not just about lead or no lead, it's about following the science and allowing our wildlife managers to dictate how we should be managing wildlife.
That's it, and that's the great baseline standard and how we operate and how we engage on stuff. And I've always said it's like the ultimate buck to pass, because if it doesn't meet muster on that, then you can't force it and you can't pick and choose. It's just the science is the science, right? So no, that's all great. Before we check out of here, anything else you want to talk about? Anything we want to look towards quarter 2 as we start closing up shop in some of these places, getting to summertime?
Yeah, the other bill that I'll highlight quickly that passed this week is the MALS Act, the Mitigation Action and Waterbend Support Act. And essentially, what this bill does is it directs the Secretary of Commerce to launch a pilot program to address an additional market to bring invasive blue cats to the market, right? And as a lifelong Marylander and somebody that loves spending time on the Chesapeake Bay, the blue cats are having a detrimental impact on all of our species in the Chesapeake, whether it's striped bass, whether it's red drum, whether it's blue crabs, what have you. Um, Blue cats are having a tremendous impact on the fishery and the Chesapeake Bay, and it's also a significant the Bay is a significant economic driver for the state of Maryland, for the state of Virginia, state of Delaware, et cetera. And it's because people are going out and spending money recreational fishing or commercial fishing or what have you, or going boating. And when you have a species like the invasive blue cat that is undermining the health of the bay, that in turn threatens the economic driver that is the Chesapeake Bay. And so for you have some tributaries and some rivers in the Chesapeake Bay region that up to 75% of the entire biomass found in that river or tributary is invasive blue cats.
Ugh.
So we're saying is, hey, we need to provide some additional flexibility for these fish to be harvested commercially and brought to the market. And one of the ways that we're looking to do that is to make them eligible and help expedite the process to put invasive blue cats into pet food. So you're addressing a couple issues, right? You're getting rid of an invasive species and you're doing it in a sustainable way that ultimately is going to benefit, pets, but also human consumption as well. And these things are, obviously blue cats are kind of nasty looking, and they're very nasty for the health of the day, but some of them taste pretty darn good. So really excited as a lifelong Marylander to get that one out of the House, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to get that bill done this Congress. It had tremendous bipartisan support in the House, and only about 60-ish dissenting votes, so really good showing over there. And yeah, as we enter in Q2, we're gonna continue just pounding the pavement on stuff. I think January or in 2026 is an election year, right? And with that becomes just gridlocked politics. And really, we think that Congress typically gets locked down no later than early July as we get closer to the November elections. But with that comes an opportunity for CSF to move our legislation, right? And the fortunate thing for us and what we get to work on, there's something here for everybody. So we're going to certainly look for those opportunities to get something done before, get a couple things done before Congress gets completely gridlocked.
Well, that's fantastic. And yeah, hopefully the strategy works there and give these folks a nice win going back home to their districts as they pamphleteer and shake hands and do all the retail politics. But coming in, speaking to your sporting community and working families is with some wins. That's something to tout. So good luck to them. But we'd love to see them move that on for us and for our community in a bigger way. So Taylor, thank you so much for your leadership. Thanks for what you do on the Hill and representing not only CSF but the entirety of the sporting community, which you often do. And we thank you for your update for quarter one.
Fred, always good to be with you, man. Thanks for everything you do for us.
All right, you bet. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the Sportsman's Voice podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, your support is crucial, and you can help us out right now by leaving a review, filling in those 5 stars where available, sharing this episode with friends and family, and engaging with us socially. CSF can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Together, we can protect the outdoor sports we love and continue to keep you informed wherever you are. That's it for this week. Until next time, we'll see you later.
Two teams, one cup. The primetime stage is set for the TGL presented by SoFi Finals, Los Angeles Golf Club versus Tigers Jupiter Links. Keep up, it's playoffs. Tune in Monday, March 23rd, 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2, and Tuesday, March 24th, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and on the ESPN app.